years away, shining galaxies away. Yes. What are you waiting for? 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 Alright, I think that's a good visualization, even if it's somewhat chaotic. Screen. No, not quite. Overlay. Kind of. Ah, the unintentional antagonist of the story, everyone. A personification of trauma, fear, paranoia, and otherwise. They too were once a person. How do I do this? Okay, let's try this. Because the antagonist serves as the foil to my fictional self. And in that regard, they fall prey to the lesson I chose to. They fall prey to the very lesson I learned from by choosing to not follow it, respect it. Yeah. No. The story plotline for this character is that They were one of the first loyal supporters of the immature god in red over here, and ended up kind of obsessed with them, even as they grew on into old age and were maintaining their youth through the use of their friend's power. And yes, that is youth comparative to how long this bitch has lived. She has been the support system for this mopey lad, this little immature god over here in red, for a long time. But then the immortal dude comes in, and these two have a connection, and this person's just like, what? What in the fuck? What in the fuck? So, yeah, no, there's that. Then, after my fictional self is created by pure fucking accident, in the midst of chaos and other shit, maybe even an argument, uh, they end up becoming the leader of the hunting squad that seeks to, absolutely get rid of me, my fictional self. It's the reason why the color palette is like this over here, and this is the color palette of the actual fucking god, and the actual main servants of. This bitch creates an entire division dedicated to trying to kill, eradicate, erase, keep my fictional self locked up, away, and out of the sight of this one, because every time I exist, it just reminds them of how their friend is no longer here. They get depressed and sad, and so they get angry. Ah. Eventually, we get to the point where fictional representation of the dense stork steps in, is born, and this bitch basically starts dragging her into her network of hunters, telling her of all the fucking horrible things and whatever the fuck else she believes about my fictional self. In the midst of my fictional self also unknowingly interacting with the dork here. Until things hit a friction point and my fictional self breaks the fragile peace that was there because she doesn't want to live in a lie where someone who she cares about really believes all of that about her, but won't confront her, won't acknowledge it. So that causes a fight, and everything spirals from there. My fictional self gets thrown into the void, tries to piece herself back together. Meanwhile, this bitch gets it, passes on some of the god's powers over to her, onto the dense stork. Meanwhile, she keeps the rest of them in reserve for herself. And this is the point at which she starts losing her. This this first follower starts losing their own damn mind. Technically, like, I know the genders technically of, or the priority point that each one expresses themselves towards. These two express themselves as dudes. Me, I pretty much go for envy and female. Then Stork around female somewhat. The first follower, definitely around envy and female, but is willing to lean into the female side more and more as time goes on. Not to say I wouldn't either, but I don't know. Either way, it gets to the point where there is conversation, there is reconciliation, and by now, the really, really old and should long time be dead by now bitch just loses all of her sanity and gives in to the worst parts of herself. Traps the dense stork, tries to siphon off that little extra bit of power so that way this antagonist lady can then revive this dude, even though he kind of went to sleep, chose to go to sleep and pass on his position for a reason. And then there's my dumbass trying to keep that from happening. Only this bitch, because she's ruffled through all the notes that were stolen from the creation site of my fictional self, what scraps were left around, is able to cast illusions and defenses based around my own fucking desires. And I have to fucking defeat these defenses and illusions in order to make sure this bitch does not sacrifice this bitch. To make sure that the old mentally broken person who wants to revive the past and claim someone all to themselves, even when that person wouldn't reciprocate. Meanwhile, after I managed to beat all four of these fucking illusions, and banish this motherfucker temporarily, I just let this one go. Because it's not my choice. Even if I would love for it to be, it is not my choice on when someone is ready or isn't, when they choose to do something or not. And until the other person finds their conviction, until the fictional version of themselves in here finds their conviction, this is where the story ends. Caring about one another, but knowing that I can't be near them lest I risk self-destructing in the same way. Not if they're not willing to bring their own conviction and face it off against all the things I don't understand about them. It's quite literally a situation where I have conviction to fight off this bullshit and try to just be there as a person, but if the other person isn't willing to support me as a friend and fight that fight with me, then ultimately I'm not going to be able to stick around. Because it will mean that they don't value me as a friend. And more so that they'll only value me for the flattery and what I can do for them instead of as a person. And though that won't make me stop caring about them, that will cross the line of my own self-worth. And I will not be a part of that kind of life. Unrequited love given a story format. My own experience translated into fiction so as to process and understand it and move on. Never stop caring about the people I've known. But that doesn't mean I'm going to let them disrespect me as a person. Because I at least had enough effort and sanity and time to try and respect them as a person, even if they don't believe me. Light years away from now, maybe something will change. After all, I can always be proven wrong about what I think of other people. I don't get to define who other people are. They get to make that choice for themselves. I can try and help, try to have my own influence in a direction I think is positive, but if that doesn't work for the other person, then there's nothing I can do, and I will accept that. Because you can't protect someone from themselves. And if I don't have a friend who's willing to fight by my side, then there's nothing. There's nothing for me to hold on to that I don't already have within me and hold on to as a part of myself. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? In many ways, I am a crescent blood moon, frowning, growling, breathing, and fighting to exist. And the antagonist is a laughing crescent harvest moon, dancing within their own insanity, trying their best to deny reality and recreate that which they lost because they will not accept it being gone. I don't want to see that happen to people, but that is basically what's at stake. Not just for me, but for others involved. And I'm not going to let that happen. I will not be trapped, I will not be tricked, or otherwise. Alright, so if I put these all back to normal, okay, all of them back to normal, and put them to 50. Yeah, that works better. Alright, so we've got all of this. Let's set this to about 10. Yeah, that should do. Hell, even there's a thematic theme of the obsession being in the eyes of the person there, at least in terms of the antagonist. Can't say I do the same, thankfully, but it definitely got close to that point. Are you wanting to be over here, or are you wanting to do something in this room, you silly cat? Okay, wander as you will. And now the cat expects me to give it pets because I gave it attention, talked to it, and put my hand down in a certain spot and didn't try to shoo it away. I love you, but you are so frustrating, you little critter. I wish I could just say what I want to you and you'd understand it. Alas, I cannot, and so I have to try and figure out other ways to communicate. Yes, I am still here. Yes, you can sit and cuddle all you want. Just please stay quiet instead of making that noise. What are you waiting for? 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 Unrequited love is a bitch. I'm overthinking. In short, the whole themes behind this with the antagonist is that they fight to control and possess the one they love, giving in to their desires and losing themselves in the process. Meanwhile, I choose to fight it so that way the other person has their freedom and their ability to choose, even if it means I sit in a bit of emotional pain for myself. And I manage to keep myself, my sense of self and who I choose to be exactly because of that. I don't think the same story plays out for the dense dork. Theirs would be like an inverse story to my own journey. They would have to head in the opposite direction and work through their own feelings, find their own convictions, and face me as a person, even in the midst of their own fear. And that's not reasonable to ask of anyone, so I cannot expect it. It's something they either choose to do for themselves or they don't. I don't get to see their efforts. I don't get to see what choices real people will make. I can only speculate on fiction. This is the complicated pile of fiction that is everything that I can understand about the past situation, with the personification of the very fucking friction, conflict, disagreements, and unhealthy sense of control that pervades throughout it. Because from here, they're fine, and then they just start slowly spiraling. I may stand in the midst of insanity, but I'm not about to drag other people into it. Not if I can help it. Unconventional, biological, post-terrestrial, non-remedial people. What are you waiting for? 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 Because if you keep waiting, I'm probably just gonna die one day. That's not even me trying to add pressure, that's just me acknowledging that I don't. I did not see someone who was fighting for themselves back then. And that's okay if I didn't see your efforts, you dense stork. But if you want me as a part of your life, if you want me around, then please, don't just assume I'll be around forever. I'm worth more than that. But they won't believe that until I fucking prove it, so I'm going to go prove it. Even if it means struggling like hell. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You know, for all that this isn't bad necessarily, I can still see the flaws in it. Alright. Wop, wop. Oh. CRT. Romantic scientific blackest point. I would love to go for a more detailed style like this, but let's be real, I'm not good at it yet. And that's okay, I don't have to be. Theory, catharsis, relay. Theory, catharsis, relay. Theory, catharsis, relay. Theory. All right. No, that does fit the character of Anitra. If I want to do a proper job of the facial expressions instead of just majorly simplifying them. Let's go on an adventure. Let's go for a far off search. And I don't need to keep the mouth the exact same. A reason to live. Gone what you've flown, venture through the darkest point, from far and wide, but don't return, venture through the lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Ooh, la, la, ooh, ooh, la, la, ooh, ooh, la, la, ooh. Our own origins. Empty-handed. Hmm. Leave here without meaning, but why does it feel fleeting? There we go. That would be part of why it wasn't looking or feeling right. But too flat an angle. Nope, that's alien head. Yeah. Well, that's about the same as before. No. On pillars of glass. But don't return, venture through lands unknown. Oh, I'm flattening it too much. That's why. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown. Okay. Okay, so if I take this, that would be why. Heading to blackest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Okay, so that's about the edge. Barely, barely within the area I can actually shift, move, and kind of edit it without making it look awkward or different in a way that hurts the image. On pillars of glass. Mm, 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 mm. Empty-handed. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. The blackest point, search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, so don't look back on what you've flown. Ooh, ooh, ooh. No, it's longer than that. Okay. We're here without meaning. Why does it feel fleeting? Is it just to perish? To not find this out? Yes, but no, because then this is wrong. Maybe I should not draw the face line on the same layer as the hairline. Shit. Me being a dork. Me being a dork, me being a dork, me being a dork. New hope rises on pillars of glass. A reason to live. The blackest point, search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through the lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Venture through the blackest point, darkest point. Don't return, venture through the lands unknown. Search back on what you've flown. Our own origin. Okay, doesn't need to be that big. Empty-handed. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through. Expression, face structure, hair. Which means technically I should. Should have, could have. Move on, get things done, girl. We're here without meaning, but why does it feel fleeting? How the heck do they do it? Alright, they let more curve in. Okay. There we go. They managed to get it to look flatter than I do, but that's okay. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Venturing to the blackest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Ooh, 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 ooh. There we go. Empty-handed. No, too flat. Think about the jaw structure. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through. Wonder, can I do this? Kind of, but not quite. Figure out the hair some more, and then you can worry about the jaw, because that can be used as a way to not worry about the neckline and jaw. Meanwhile, it may not be the same with Ira. Goober with wisps of hair. Take detail notes. Right. Now to pompous and fancy. Not quite. You can come up here if you want, Munch, but very young looking, so no. Then again, I'm not looking to add the detail under the eyes yet, so. Although I could try that right now. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. What I what I what I If I had drawn the lines for the cheeks on a different layer, I would be able to move the eyes without having to include those lines and create an easier and have an easier time creating an effect where it feels like she's looking at the viewer. As it stands, though, that is not happening. So I'm gonna have to get creative. We're here without meaning, but why does it feel fleeting? It's just to perish, to not find this out. There we go. Alright, so then we go to here and here. Hmm. Nope. Mm. Looks a lot less flat this time. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've known. Mm. Does that look right? Not quite. We're here without meaning, but why does it feel fleeting? Yes, but no. Because up there it works, but along there it doesn't. Uh, hmm. But don't look back on what you've plunged right into. Luck is one, search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've loved. No. Not the best start, but not the worst start either. And that's good enough. Ah, heck. It's drawing the other eye all over again. Face structure, I don't think the freckles need be. Mm. Mm. We're here without meaning, but why does it feel fleeting? Just to perish were we to not find this out? Well, if that's there and that's there, then the line I started with isn't accurate to where things go. Our own origins. No, I'm misunderstanding about something about this. Kind of, but not quite. Hair a little too tall. Little too tall. Okay, got it. I am slow when it comes to making things. Sorry if you've been waiting a while. Hmm. Take notes and oh, okay. Well, shit, I shouldn't have drawn that then. Oh well. We just accept the flaws and move forward. Venture through the lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Okay, yes, but no. So we copy that, then we move it over here. It still came back empty-handed. I I held shift at the start, and yet you doubt me, computer. And yet you doubt me. Rude. Alright. Yeah, no, I would not think to do that at all. To have a piece of hair purposefully stick out just doesn't make sense to me. On pillars of glass. Hmm. Right. That connects the ear, which connects the jaw. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've known. Well, that was unintentionally works well enough. They stylistically put the ears lower. Hmm. Yes, but no. On that line, at least. The other lines turned out fine. Just this one. Wait. Shit, how am I gonna... Okay, then I guess I'm gonna have to erase the line. There, at least. Wrong layer, Kronk! Empty-handed. I exist just to perish slowly. I'll find this out. Alright, so if I hide that, so that's hair 2. If I just erase this and this a little. On pillars of glass. Yes, but no. A reason to love. What well, if it's gonna be this difficult, then I might as well erase this for now. Yes, but no. Lower to other layer. Yes, but also no. No, do not. The fact that I am about to have 3 layers just for hair explains a lot of how confusing this design is. Also, get over here. All right. This is fucking maddening. Empty-handed. Yes, but no. Whatever. I don't understand here yet, and I'm learning. Often seen with a frown. All right. Mm, Not sure how to go about this, because her ear covers more of the detail. And again, I can go for this instead. Yes, but also no. Ooh, that's looking good. That's looking better. Yes, but no. Yes, but no. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Well, if I'm going to be doing that, then I'm gonna want to redo this. Kind of, yes, but also no. If to do it like that, then where would that leave us? Yeah, no, it would be somewhat like that. Starting to get the ideas together. She definitely looks very young right now. And I can work on that. A reason to live. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've learned. Venture through the blackest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through the lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Ah. Empty-handed. Kind of, yes. Tread into blackest white. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've blown. Tread into blackest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Oh. One, two, three, four, five, four. Miss Chubby Cheeks. Excuse you? No, I don't think I will be excused. Well, looks like someone is being a bit dense. Yeah, no, the head angle is different, so the line angle would also be different. Okay, so I'm not crazy on that end. Kind of yes, but also no, but stuff to consider later. a reason to live. Yeah, that's doing a lot better. But don't return, venture through lands unknown. But don't look back on what you've flown, vet into darkest point. Search far and wide, but don't return, venture through lands unknown. But don't look back on what you've flown. I can futz with it another time when I'm ready to work on this again, but otherwise, I still think that is a good improvement. In terms of stylization, angle, and translation. Tread into the blackest point, search far and wide, but don't return, venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Tread into the blackest point, search far and wide, but don't return. Tread into the great unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Yeah, I think I've got at least some variance in the voice there that can be used for at least two different characters. You're here with that. Why does it feel fleeting? I mean, if I take this and use it just temporarily as a beneath line, then yeah. Yes, but no. Anyways, overthinking brain go brrr. Lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Yes, but no. That's not the angle that's going to make it work, but that is a decent angle. Just to perish. I can definitely work on making it more so back here and have that line running back. On pillars of glass, searching for cause, a reason to live. Right into darkest point, search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown. Turn back on what you've flown. Tread into the darkest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Treasure through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Ooh, da ooh, ooh, da ooh, 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 da ooh. Centered all our own origins. But still came back empty-handed. Head into the blackest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Tread into the darkest point. Search far and wide, but don't return. Venture through lands unknown, but don't look back on what you've flown. Yeah, no, it would be back here is where that would be happening. So you wouldn't actually see much of this, but you might see something along here. Then as for the neckline, it'd probably be around here to here. Maybe. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm trying to get a better idea of how I would want this to look. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. We're here without meaning, but why does it feel fleeting? Just to perish. I can definitely switch up the outfit a good bit. Keep the cloth around the neck because that's just a lovely detail. She hides her lanyard in it. Oh, that would be funny. Alright, I'm gonna see you all later. I hope you have a good day, good night, whatever time or non-time it is. And if it isn't good, you're feeling stuck or struggling alone, I hope that things either improve for you, stay manageable, or that you find a way to sit with and vent your feelings without hurting yourself or others. My name is Flicker. I've made some progress on this, so I'll be seeing you all in the next video. Bye! This catalyst is out!